like a very dark, very grim mood through his visual sensibility, and displays an excellent use of sound for someone who this is his first sound film, literally the first film he ever made with sound.
That is impressive. Wow.
And
like, even like what I was saying, even the choices when he's like, I'm just gonna have this sound effect on, like the whistle. Like that's well thought out, and it really drives home this ominous
Which, by the
nature.
way, Peter Lorre could not whistle, so that is Fritz Lang whistling.
Oh, is it? That's awesome.
And he is whistling.
I can't whistle either, Peter.
He is whistling in the I guess they call it like a leitmotif or whatever it is when they call it recurring music in the film.
Oh, okay.
And he has him doing the "In the Hall of the Mountain King" song.
Right.
That's the name of the song, I think.
Yeah.
And it's this very creepy whistle, and he uses it ingeniously because the first time you hear it is in this creepy suspense sequence where this little girl, she's walking around, she's being adorable, she's bouncing a ball on the street. She stops and sees this postage of this newspaper where they are talking about all these missing children. And then all of a sudden, a shadowy figure with a hat, and his shadow just hits that, and he says, "Hello, little girl."
How well thought out is that? It's unbelievable. Most of the time, I was just, because I'm not used to watching these old films.
Yeah.
The majority of the time I was watching this, I just couldn't believe that it was from 1931.
Like the visual sophistication of what he's doing, like with the camera and stuff.
Exactly. Because I'm just like, 100 years later, I could rarely find this. You know what I mean? It's just it's so impressive. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so like, and it tracks that girl walking up to that sign, shows the sign, has his shadow take over the sign, and then has his whistling come in, and it comes in off screen. So it's off screen. You don't see him in that scene at all.
Yeah.
But then you're trained to know that every single time we're watching a scene and then you hear that whistling come in maybe from the left side, and then it gets a little bit louder, you know that he's walking around, he's looking for his next victim. And it's a very genius suspense tactic, and it works especially well because of what happens to that little girl, which again, we never see it.
No, but these the
montage of images
cuts.
Of the mom waiting for the little girl to come home. We see this creepy man walk up to this girl.
Yeah.
And then we see one touch I think is really awesome too is the cuckoo bird in the clock. Because the mom hears the cuckoo bird and she's, normal day, getting my dinner ready for my little girl who's coming home. And then when she starts getting worried, she looks at the cuckoo clock and it comes out and it does kind of like one spit and then goes back in and it goes to pure silence. So it did it either like broke down or it didn't do what it was supposed to do.
It's like something's off here. It's not a typical day. Yeah.
And then it's shots of her. It's shots of the little girl's empty bowl of food. It's shots of her empty chair, and then just a shot of the ball that she was holding rolling across,
right?
Like
with,
the
and
grass.
With not a lick of violence.
No,
not one bit. But it's just every little shot that he puts in sequence. Just it keeps adding to the equation. You know, you're just like, well, she's not home. Oh yeah, she had dinner. Oh yeah, she had a mother that loved her. Oh, there's the ball rolling. There's the balloon and the wires. It's just it's constant, and then it all pieces together, and you don't have to see it. It's just horrific.
Yeah, well, because then the next shot is of the newspaper up on the wall where they are announcing that another girl has been taken, and it's this like dolly crane shot over all of the heads of the people reading it, and then there's he does this amazing thing called a sound bridge, where basically he has someone reading the newspaper. So we know what all of the people are reading on the wall, but then it cuts and it reveals the guy who's reading the newspaper is someone who's in the criminal underworld reading to all of them.
Right.
And what that does is it immediately ties this community together, because you're just like, so the community of parents and normal people up top are reading the exact same thing that the criminal underworld people are reading, and he does it just again through fluid motion. Like the way that this movie like moves visually and like formally, like on just a scene to scene basis, is like just a masterclass in like just filmmaking technique. It's just like you could learn everything you need to know about making a movie probably just watching what Fritz Lang's decisions are.
Absolutely. And I also love the connection between the communities there. Like they eventually start to work with the poorer communities, or even like the beggars and stuff like that, to try to like look out for the killers. And I just liked that it was almost this like the crimes were so egregious that everybody came together to try to find this guy.
Yeah.
And although it leads to some violent mob mentality, which we'll get to.
Although also
at first I was like, oh, it's putting the city together. You know what I mean? It's bringing the community
together. I was going
to
say too, though, that it is explicitly made clear that the criminals are mostly doing it out of the fact that they're just annoyed that the police keep raiding them.
Yeah, because the police, the presence is very heavy now. All of a sudden.
Looking for the killer, and all of a sudden, all the criminals are getting caught. Right?
I guess that is true. They have different reasons.
Well, because that's one of my favorite scenes actually is when it cross cuts between the criminal meeting and the cop meeting, which is a very early use of like that cross cutting. I mean, like I think it was D.W. Griffith who really like established that. Like that cross-cutting technique like that building of excitement by cutting between these two scenes like this. But this one does it for a really interesting effect, which is comparing the similarities. It's like, look at the difference. You look at the police high command and you look at the criminal underworld high command, and they're having very similar conversations, which is like, they're not honestly that interested in catching him, it seems, because they're super offended. It's like a job thing. It's like, this is inconvenient to us. People are hounding us to solve the case on the one side, and then on the other side, we are being inconvenienced by the cops.